In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the tropics, diving into the upcoming pattern where there is some big temperature changes on the way as we have now reached September. The September forecast will be out soon. It's just not ready yet, so I do apologize for that. I've been focusing on our kind of like seasonal updates with the fall foliage, the winter forecast, the snowfall map, which is now available in Prestige Weather, which you can check out in the description and pinned comment down below for $5 a month, by the way. We do weather consulting and the early access to seasonal and monthly videos there, so be sure to check it out. Let's get straight into things, and as you can see, the tropics are awake, for sure. I think that's like the understatement of the year. We do have 4 active named storms, and then 2 areas of potential development outside of those as well. So in a minute, we'll be taking a look at the cone forecast for all 4 of these systems. Very close proximity as well. Very, very active. But for now, let's take a look at these percentages. And we'll start with this orange one here. We do have a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours. So this one is expected to take some time. But as you can see, for the 7-day outlook, we do actually have a 50% chance of development. So this one certainly is looking to have a good chance of development, and it has this kind of just straight westward trajectory, better yet, projection slash trajectory. I guess I just mixed the 2 words there. And there is some concern for the United States with this one, so we are going to be tracking this one diligently over the coming days and potentially weeks here with you guys. We do have this area here, which has a whopping 100% chance of development within the next 48 hours and 7 days, which means that they are imminently close to upgrading this system here. Probably within the next couple of hours, this one will be developed. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at our cone forecast here. First off, we have Tropical Depression Gert here, which has been a long-term system for us here. We have tropical storm status until about 2 a.m. tonight. Then afterwards, downgrading to a tropical depression until about 2 a.m. on Monday, where likely this one is going to pretty much just die out over the very far northern Atlantic here. Not very, very far, but pretty far to the north there in the Atlantic. That is the current trajectory here for this one. Let's just move on because that one doesn't have much of a story there to talk about. We do see Tropical Storm Jose. That is expected to remain a tropical storm until about 2 p.m. today, pretty much dying out after that point. So we have a couple of storms that are really going to be dying down here. And then Hurricane Franklin, this one that was a very major hurricane, expected to pretty much cross into post-hurricane status, kind of not very tropical anymore. It's going to remain that way until about 2 p.m. tomorrow, and then downgrade to that tropical storm status by time we're reaching 2 a.m. on Sunday, remaining that way until about 2 a.m. on Wednesday, where it should be down to tropical depression status as it's pretty much drawing close to Iceland there. So that is the very far Atlantic. This one would be the very far north of the Atlantic, pretty much going to lose its tropical features way up above, obviously. Now, post-tropical cyclone Idalia, this one that created major impacts not only for Florida but up and down that southeast coast. We can see that this one is expected to bring some impacts to Bermuda now. It's going to kind of regain its tropical status there by 2 p.m. tomorrow. That's at least the projection right now. And that's going to be right around when it's close to Bermuda. So this one should bring tropical storm impacts, kind of indirect tropical storm impacts to Bermuda is the current expectation. It's going to remain that way until about 2 a.m. on Tuesday. And at which time it's pretty much going to downgrade back to post-tropical cyclone status. So this one's going to be all over the place, maybe turning back towards maybe the east coast of Canada or the northeast coast of the United States. This one's going to be a big question mark, but this turning around is a little bit concerning, so maybe we're going to have to deal with this one a lot longer than originally anticipated. Maybe more impacts on the way. Some big question marks there. Let's just dive into the upcoming pattern. I want to take us towards later this afternoon. And as you can see, the southeast does have some storminess going on. Same story for a lot of the west, especially the southwest there, and a bit of the Pacific Northwest. As you can see, some thunderstorm activities. We do have 1,002 millibar low pressure center there. Pretty broad. You can see it's stretching pretty far with those impacts. Pretty stormy down there for the southwest. And by Saturday afternoon, which will be September 2nd, tomorrow, we see similar conditions here along this western area. Same story for the southeast, so not much to say. really very similar to the first tier of September. Sunday, we see some things moving around. We see a lot of this tropical, and I'm not talking about like tropical storm, but really just Gulf moisture taking more aim at the deep south through the Mississippi River area up into Arkansas and even Missouri there. Not as intense as it was over the southeast, but still some isolated and scattered thunderstorms likely. Now a lot of this activity is taking aim more at the northwest and the Rockies, but still some of the southwest dealing with some isolated and scattered about activity there. So a very active period here for that region. By the 4th, we see this moves even further northward, as this low is over here as a 997 over South Dakota. A lot of the impact's going to be to the west of this system. And then we could still see a lot of this Gulf moisture moving northward, again, through that Mississippi River area. Definitely a very, very intense look here. Tuesday, the 5th of September here, we see these thunderstorms stretching even further northward, but in a pretty similar area. Still the northern Rockies dealing with some storminess, but if you're picking up on it, this is a quieter period that we're in right now. And it's getting even quieter by the 6th as we have maybe some isolated activity in the northwest, a little bit more persistent here for the upper Midwest, and then more isolated, if anything, here for the deeper south again. Let's keep going towards Thursday here, the 7th, even quieter in this case. Maybe some isolated activity for this pocket here, but it is extremely sparse. We do see some of the Ohio Valley and areas in Missouri and Arkansas dealing with some thunderstorm activity perhaps here, but again, very, very quiet. By the 8th here, we're getting a lot more activity. We do see 1,001 up here in Canada, 1,006 back here, and it does look like we maybe have a cold front stretching down from this one, perhaps another cold front here from this one. And this is leading towards overall some storminess for a lot of the upper Midwest, northern plains, some of the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic, and northeast. Definitely could be some more intense thunderstorms by Friday the 8th. Now by Saturday the 9th here, we can see that there is a lot of thunderstorms happening here for these areas still. So we see down through Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and then through northern New England, we're seeing some thunderstorm activity as a result of this system that's been ongoing. By Sunday there, maybe some isolated activity up and down the East Coast, but again, another very sparse event there. We do see a little bit more persistent activity here for the plains and upper Midwest. So for Kansas, Nebraska, Mississippi, or Minnesota, not Mississippi. We can see North Dakota here getting involved as well in this. And that is the end of our model run. And we do see that evening things do pick up for the southeast here. So we do see maybe a more active pattern on the way as we approach the 11th, 12th, 13th perhaps. But for the beginning portion of September, I would say just very, very quiet would be the way I would describe it. And when we take a look at the total precipitation here, we can see a lot of below average precipitation. The only areas dealing with maybe some above average activity is this area that saw pretty persistent thunderstorm activity. And then out west, I mean, we see for the southwest up through kind of the northern plains there, that pocket there, dealing with some above average activity, but very quiet in between here. Much more quiet than typical for the east. And overall, a pretty boring, at least stormy pattern. The tropics are awake, but the overall lower 48 thunderstorm activity is not very, very awake right now. As we can see, as we reach the temperature pattern, we do have cooler temperatures. A lot of 70s in the east. Very, very nice. A little sneak peek at fall. But this is going to only last so long. As you can see, we enter into this very classic negative PNA pattern here. So it's going to look like this. And this encourages a lot of warmth into the central and the eastern United States. And that is exactly what we end up seeing here. And it is going to get very hot. Lots of 90s, maybe even a heat wave here on the way. By Wednesday, we could see extreme heat for a lot of the Northeast, Great Lakes, Plains, Southeast. All of these areas here are dealing with an extreme area of heat, and especially the darker reds where that's going to be 10 to 15 degrees above normal. So certainly a very far departure from what's typical. As we keep going, we see similar conditions kind of prevail through at least the 10th, 11th, 12th. What we begin to see, though, is this is an ensemble model, so take it with a grain of salt. There is going to be some confusion here, but we do begin to see maybe signs of a positive PNA developing. And I would say the warmest temperatures here are over the west, and we have a lot less warmth over the east. And I would make the argument that near the 15th here, we could be looking at some colder air entering in. I think what's happening here is there is so many members at play, because again, this is an ensemble model. So what that means is there's about 20 members here on this European ensemble, and it takes the mean average of all of those. So when you have some calling for warmth in the east, but a majority calling for warmth in the west, you end up seeing something like this where it's still showing some warmth in the east, even though there might not be. But I see them more leaning towards the warmth along the west, which usually would mean cold in the east. So you have to make some assumptions here. And we have found through this year, especially, some colder patterns early on by using this type of an assumption. So this has been a pretty good method here on the channel that we've used. And even by this point, you can see a lot of reds and oranges. There is some blues in there, but overall this is a positive PNA look, and we're beginning to see more blues popping up here by the 16th. So perhaps a colder pattern for the midpoint of the month is on the way, but as of now it's still in limbo, a big question mark, and we're gonna have to just wait and see. Unfortunately, I hate saying that to you guys, but that is where we're at right now. Anyway, be sure to subscribe. We're going to keep you guys up to date with all of this, and I think we're going to figure out a lot more about this upcoming pattern very, very soon, so be on the lookout for that. Also, be sure to hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.